There is a particular kind of magic that swirls through a childhood memory when the first flakes of December drift past the window and the house fills with the scent of pine, spice, and the faint hint of old paper. Many of those memories are tethered to stories, tales read aloud at bedtime, reenacted in school plays, or whispered by candlelight during family gatherings. Christmas stories are more than seasonal entertainment. They are cultural engines that have shaped education, social values, and communal identity across generations. From Victorian morality tales to modern picture books, these narratives have educated children about ethics, civic responsibility, compassion, and the power of imagination, while also influencing how society thinks about charity, family, and the role of ritual. This video celebrates how select Christmas stories have left an indelible mark on both education and society, exploring their lessons, their pedagogical uses, and the ways they continue to inform our communal life. The power of narrative. Teaching values through stories are how humans have taught values long before formal schooling existed. Christmas stories, in particular, are loaded with moral instruction, often wrapped in warmth, humor, and miraculous turns. A classic example is Charles Dickens's A Christmas Carol. Dickens did not simply write a ghost story. He composed a moral parable that exposed social injustice and urged personal and social transformation. Scrooge's journey from miserly isolation to compassionate engagement offered a compelling model for empathy, social responsibility, and redemption. In classrooms and homely parlors alike, teachers and parents have used this narrative to open discussions about poverty, greed, and the obligations of the fortunate toward the less fortunate. Its dramatic structure, clear problem, transformative crisis, and moral resolution makes it a superb pedagogical tool for teaching narrative analysis, cause and effect reasoning, and ethical reflection. Beyond Dickens, many Christmas tales condense complex social teachings into digestible lessons. The Nativity story, whether encountered through religious instruction, pageantry, or children's picture books, teaches themes of humility, hospitality, and the prioritization of spiritual over material wealth. Folktales like The Elves and the Shoemaker, or the Scandinavian stories of Santa-like gift-givers, emphasize industriousness, community recognition, and the ethical reward of compassion. These narratives provide young learners with archetypal models of behavior and a vocabulary for discussing right and wrong that is often more resonant than abstract ethical lectures. Shaping educational practices, seasonal curricula, and cross-disciplinary learning. Christmas stories have historically become central nodes around which teachers design curricula. In primary schools, these tales function as springboards for multidisciplinary learning. Literature lessons link to history, the origins of customs, art, making decorations or illustrating scenes, music, carols and related hymnody, and drama, school plays and pageants. Teachers capitalize on children's natural enthusiasm for the season to build sustained reading programs, comprehension exercises, and creative writing projects. A Christmas-themed unit invites students to read multiple versions of a single story, religious, secular, and culturally specific, and compare perspectives, fostering critical thinking and media literacy. Moreover, Christmas narratives are frequently used to introduce narrative structure, literary devices, and character development in ways that are accessible and emotionally engaging. The characters' clear motives and the story's vivid imagery help develop vocabulary and imaginative capacity. Younger children learning to sequence events, identify protagonists and antagonists, and understand narrative arcs often benefit from the strong, repetitive structures of familiar holiday tales. Perhaps more subtly, Christmas stories have shaped pedagogical approaches toward empathy education. Programs that emphasize social-emotional learning often use seasonal narratives to help students practice perspective-taking, conflict resolution, and compassion. Role-playing scenes from stories, sending Scrooge to perform acts of generosity, or placing oneself in the shoes of a manger child, creates immersive, effective experiences that lead to deeper internalization of pro-social behavior. Cementing social rituals. From domestic reading to public charity, Christmas stories do not merely instruct in the classroom. they punctuate and legitimize social rituals. The Victorian revival and reinvention of many Christmas customs were influenced heavily by literature. Dickens' A Christmas Carol, for instance, helped recast Christmas as a festival of family, feasting, and benevolence rather than a minor religious observance. Through its popular success, the story helped normalize domestic gatherings, communal charity, and the idea that seasonal generosity was a civic virtue. The narrative's influence was so profound that historians credit it with shaping how the modern Western world celebrates the holiday, translating private piety into public philanthropy, and forging connections between sentimental family narratives and socio-political reform. The cultural weight of Christmas stories also supports public charity and social welfare practices. Annual charity drives, toy-giving programs, and community feasts often find their moral impetus in narratives that emphasize giving to those in need. When civic institutions or schools adopt a story like Dickens's as a touchstone, they connect educational goals, reading comprehension, moral reasoning, with civic outcomes, fundraising, volunteering. This melding has a long ripple effect. Children who grow up rehearsing narratives about kindness are more likely to view civic engagement as a normative, expected part of adult life. Diversity of voices. Expanding the canon and social understanding. For much of its history in Western education, the canon of Christmas stories centered on Eurocentric religious and secular tales. Yet, as societies have grown more multicultural, the repertoire of holiday stories used in schools has broadened to include diverse cultural traditions and perspectives. Contemporary educational settings increasingly include Kwanzaa stories, winter solstice myths, Hanukkah tales, and modern multicultural holiday books that highlight different family structures, religious practices, and cultural meanings of the season. This diversification enriches students' cultural literacy, reduces ethnocentric assumptions, and fosters pluralistic social identities. Introducing students to varied winter and holiday narratives opens avenues for more sophisticated social learning. Comparing how different communities mark the season allows teachers to frame discussions around cultural relativism, empathy for difference, and global interconnectedness. For instance, pairing the story of the Nativity with tales of indigenous winter celebrations or African winter festivals highlights both unique customs and shared human themes: family, survival, generosity, helping students appreciate cultural specificity without losing sight of common humanity. Narratives as tools for social critique and reform. Christmas stories have not only reinforced social norms, they have also been vehicles for critique. Writers have used holiday settings to expose social ills, satirize hypocrisy, and argue for reform. Dickens's critique of industrial-era poverty is only the most famous example. More recent authors and filmmakers have used Christmas backdrops to explore issues like consumerism, environmental degradation, or social isolation. These critical narratives invite readers to interrogate the status quo. Why do we equate love with gifts? Why are some communities excluded from the festive abundance? Such stories prompt civic conversations and can be integrated into curricula aimed at critical literacy and social studies, giving students tools to analyze how popular culture shapes, and sometimes distorts, social priorities. The role of effective learning, memory, ritual, and identity formation. Christmas stories perform a unique educational task because they fuse cognitive learning with strong affective hooks. Emotionally charged narratives, those that elicit wonder, nostalgia, or sadness, are more likely to be remembered and to influence behavior. The repeated annual performance of these stories in families and schools solidifies them as ritualized memory, creating continuity across generations. Children internalize not only plot lines, but also mood, moral tone, and the social cues that accompany the tales: communal singing, decorating, or gift-giving. All pedagogical acts that teach rhythm, cooperation, and the timing of cultural practices. Identity formation is another arena where Christmas stories exert influence. For many, these narratives become identity scaffolding. We are the family who reads the Nativity each Christmas, or our school always puts on a Christmas Carol. Such repeated associations tie personal and communal identity to the story's values. In a pluralistic society, how a community adopts or adapts these stories signals who it is and who it aspires to be: generous, pious, humorous, multicultural. Controversies and conversations. Secularization, inclusion, and commercialization. The educational and social roles of Christmas stories have not been without controversy. Debates have swirled around which stories are appropriate for public schools, how to respect religious diversity, and whether seasonal narratives contribute to consumerist excess. Some argue that the secularization of religious holiday tales dilutes spiritual meanings. Others counter that secular adaptations make the stories more inclusive and broadly teachable. Meanwhile, commercial pressures have transformed some narratives into vehicles for advertising and consumption, prompting educators to teach media literacy so that students can distinguish cultural value from commercial messaging. Well-considered pedagogical practice can navigate these tensions by presenting multiple narratives, contextualizing historical sources, and engaging students in discussions about commercialization and inclusivity. For example, teachers can juxtapose an old-fashioned Christmas tale with a modern critique of consumer culture, prompting students to evaluate how the tale's values align with contemporary ethical concerns. Schools can also create inclusive seasonal curricula that honor multiple traditions and emphasize shared human values like generosity, family, and community service. Modern media and the evolution of Christmas storytelling. The rise of film, television, and digital media has multiplied the ways Christmas stories shape society and education. Classic tales have been adapted, parodied, and reinterpreted countless times. Scrooge appears in animated shorts, television specials, and contemporary reboots. Santa Claus is everywhere from folk god to brand mascot. These adaptations provide educators with abundant material to teach adaptation studies, intertextuality, and media critique. Analyzing how a story changes across formats or eras teaches students to pay attention to audience, purpose, and cultural shifts. Digital storytelling platforms also empower more voices to contribute to the seasonal canon. Children's literature has become more diverse in both authorship and subject matter, and independent creators produce content that can be used in classrooms to reflect community-specific experiences. Educators can assign multimedia projects, podcasts, short films, illustrated ebooks that not only reinforce literacy skills, but also give students agency in shaping seasonal narratives and, through them, social values. Practical classroom strategies. Using Christmas stories responsibly. For educators seeking to harness the power of Christmas stories without excluding or proselytizing, a few practical strategies work well. Use multiple perspectives. Present religious, secular, and multicultural winter narratives side by side to foster comparative analysis. Focus on universal themes. Teach values like generosity, empathy, and community rather than doctrinal specifics when in public or pluralistic settings. Promote critical media literacy. Encourage students to analyze commercial influences, historical context, and authorial intent. Encourage creative response. Have students rewrite, dramatize, or illustrate holiday stories, promoting narrative skills and cultural reflection. Connect stories to civic action. Pair reading with service projects or community engagement to translate narrative lessons into lived practice. These approaches allow teachers to use the season's enthusiasm constructively, deepening literacy while cultivating civic-mindedness. As we conclude, remember that these are stories that teach. Rituals that bind. Christmas stories have been among the most effective cultural tools for shaping education and society because they combine narrative clarity, emotional resonance, and ritual repetition. They teach morals and literacy, scaffold communal practices, and provide fertile ground for critical discussion. From Dickensian denunciations of social inequality to modern multicultural picture books, these tales have helped communities think about obligation, generosity, and identity. They have been used to teach children to read, to empathize, and to participate in civic life. At their best, Christmas stories nurture a sense of shared humanity, inspire us to care for one another, and remind us that education is not only about facts, but about forming citizens capable of compassion and imagination. As societies change, educators and communities will continue to adapt which narratives they tell and how they tell them. But the fundamental truth remains: stories shape us. The seasonal tales we share at school and at home help forge values, rituals, and memories that outlast any single holiday. In that sense, every retelling, every school play, and every candlelit reading contributes to a living tradition, one that teaches not only what we know, but who we choose to be.